Jackie Fur, the chair of the Act 46 committee. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what the Southwest Supervisory Union has already in consolidation. Act 46 is a consolidation law that came out of the legislature last year, where they, and the preferred model is that we all become one. Southwest Supervisory Union has many of the areas consolidated. They have finances consolidated, special ed, New England, NCC, I can't remember the rest of it, the Congress Street program, food service, busing, teachers, administrators, and paraeducators contract, except for Woodford, because they choose not to be a part of it, curriculum, policies, I think most of them are the same, aren't they, Matt? Are yours, do you follow the issue?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not my school, so,
No, North Bennington.
no, I know, but the school is separate from the,
Okay.
from the SU,
Yeah.
so I don't know exactly what.
Okay. Human resources, technology, early childhood program, pre-K for 3 to 4-year-olds, and triple E, administrative, superintendent, and legal services. Them are the things that we have consolidated. Jim, do you want to?
Yeah, we have some options that we have to consider. The process that we're doing here is, this is the SVSU Study Committee with members duly elected from each of their own boards to be on this committee. Had a couple of meetings to outline what process they wanted to use, and then they began a series of public forums. Tonight being Bennington's public forum, they still have to schedule one more public forum. That'll be in North Bennington. Then I imagine the SVSU board will reconvene and discuss all the information that they have heard at these public forums, so that then they can go back and make recommendations to their individual boards. What are some of the options that the boards can look at? Phase 1 of Act 46 of 2015 was an accelerated merger. The deadline for doing that is rapidly expanding, going away, and we really never considered that. Phase 2 of it is the boards could have considered a red or a variation of reds, or which really would be the same as doing an alternative structure. We'll talk about that in a second. Phase 3, or the third option, would be a conventional merger, and there's deadlines that we have to comply with if we're going to do that. Jackie said some of the things, the preferred model by the state is at least 900 students, pre-K through 12, and one school board overseeing that. If we wanted to do an alternative structure, and that is one thing that we've been hearing from the board meeting, so I will discuss some of the things that, for guidance, the supervisory union, that consider that would have to be collectively responsible if we wanted to be an alternative structure. We would still have to be collectively responsible for the education of all pre-kindergarten through grade 12 students residing in the supervisory union. It would have to operate, the supervisory union would have to operate in a manner that maximizes efficiencies through economies of scale and the flexible management, transfer, and sharing of non-financial resources among the member districts. The supervisory union is also to be compiled of the smallest number of member school districts practical. It really doesn't apply to us. That would be if we were probably going to merge with another supervisory union. And for an alternative structure, again, something that would not necessarily be difficult, for this supervisory union, a combined average daily membership of all member districts of not less than 1,100 students. So and that's kind of an overview of what this board has to consider and make recommendations back to their board. The tasks for that alternative structure need to be completed by November 30th of 2017.
Well, since the last board meeting, since the last committee meeting, North Bennington has sent a letter to us that they concluded that one of the challenges for our Act 46 study, this is North Bennington committee, is the diversity of our districts. Because of our differences in size, location, and people, we often hold very different views of various policies and mandates that confront our supervisory union. If each district does not make its goals and viewpoints clear, other districts may make assumptions about the level of agreement among the districts. The North Bennington Graded School District does not believe either the goals or the requirements of Act 46 can be met with our existing governance structure. Our current three-tier board structure, SVSU, MAU, individual district, is exactly the kind of complex structure Act 46 aims to simplify. It is also becoming clear that the interests of all member districts are not the same. Smaller districts want to control their future and ensure the sustainability of their community schools, while the larger districts want appropriate representation in setting policies and direction. Our non-operating district wants to maintain the opportunity choices offers our families. We feel there are two directions for this study committee. As a group, we acknowledge the needs and goals of all the districts in the study committee and work together to develop a proposal to address them as soon, or as a group, we acknowledge the needs and goals of the district represented are not compatible and cannot be resolved in a single proposal. The study committee must then report this situation to the Agency of Education, disband, and allow the individual member districts to form study committees with other districts who share their interests. And Matthew Patterson wrote this letter and submitted it. Any discussion? Would anybody like to discuss that? And at the last BSD, yes, I'm sorry. Will you state your name and come to the microphone?
Jeannie Jenkins, resident of Bennington. Will that letter be available? It's hard to hear, so I'm just wondering if a copy of the letter will be available for the
You can
public.
have mine.
Oh, okay. Right now?
Yeah, sure. You're welcome, yeah.
And it will be submitted with the minutes. Anybody else? Any comments? Questions? Yes?
My name is Bruce Learman. I'm part of the advisory group in North Bennington that helped to draft the letter. First of all, I'd like to say that I really think that there are two choices here, and either one of them is viable depending on how we choose to approach it. It seems to me that the state gives us wide latitude in the nature of the proposal we would use to respond to Act 46. So we can combine the various interests of the various groups into one proposal if we want. However, if we just feel that there are too many conflicting goals, then we're obligated to disband this study committee so that others, because you can only be part of one study committee at a time, and it would give the districts who are interested in seeking other alternatives an opportunity to join with others who have similar interests. So I just wanted to say that the two options that we propose here are really, we feel, are viable. And we hope that the study committee will consider both of them and think about which way you want to go. But as with the schedule that Jim has read out, time is short here. And it's really necessary for us to decide and move along with getting to the nuts and bolts of an actual proposal and expressing and representing all of our interests in that proposal, if that's what we want to do. Thank you.
Jackie, can I ask something?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Are you saying we should disband this committee
Yes.
for you to go forward with what you want to do?
I'm saying that's one option, yes. And I'm saying that we can't join another study committee unless this study committee writes a final report that says we can't continue.
Which is November of 26, a year away, a year and a half away.
Well,
Our final report isn't due for a year and a half.
But it takes time, Jim.
I'm
we
sorry.
This final report takes, we're not,
It's 2017, but it takes time.
Okay.
We
So-
haven't gotten very far.
is North Bennington asking this committee to break up now, or what do you?
If
It's
you feel
dramatic
that
what
we
you're
can't
asking. I
come
think
to
what
an
you're asking
agreement-
is dramatic.
If we can't come to an agreement as to how we want to proceed, then the sooner the better to disband this committee.
Well, give me, what do you think is better?
Frankly, I think trying to develop a proposal that meets the needs of all the districts in this SU is the best course of action, because that's more what the state is expecting us to do. This study committee is already funded and organized, but it will take a lot of work to put together the various competing district interests.
Okay.
We're not funded.
Is North Bennington,
I'm sorry, funding is available. I don't know whether we get funded.
at some point, this meeting, next meeting, 6 months from now, can we expect North Bennington rep is Ray, I guess?
No, it's,
Matt?
I'm the representative of this board,
Okay.
of this committee.
For North Bennington to propose that we vote on this, to disband?
I think we're proposing that now.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
That, we proposed that in the letter if we can't come to agreement on a,
But then it's up to North, I mean, are you going to make a motion soon, or no?
Well,
Because I have to go back to my board. If there's any motion for that, I promised my board I would get the other four to agree or disagree with anything like that, so. Pownell would have to abstain from a vote until I go back to my board and we discuss it, and my board votes on it.
I think what we're feeling, and I think there's other districts that might be feeling it, is that as we're moving forward in this, where we've all sat around and looked at each other going, well, we're not giving up our board. You're giving up yours? You know, that we're wasting our time. We have had informal conversations with other districts who will consider us a player and part of their official committees, but they've got to move on by like May 1st.
I have a question for the superintendent. This committee is essentially mandated, correct?
No, you did not have to form this committee, but you are required to answer the state by a date. So you could...
How do we do that
You
without
could sit
forming a-
back and do nothing, and then the state would come down here in 2018, and whoever's left of this supervisory union could be assigned by the Secretary of Education or recommended by the Secretary of Education to the state board for placement elsewhere. But the SU voted to form the committee and then have each board duly elect representatives from their board to this committee. So the Agency of Education considers this a duly elected Act 46 study committee.
So it would be individually and collectively imprudent for us to disband, because then the state will dictate.
Well, I think what North Bend is proposing is that if we aren't making progress here, we disband, find like districts that we'd like to work with, join their study committee, if that's an option, and move forward.
exactly.
Which, I know Shasbury's had informal meetings, but other districts has too, and it gives you the opportunity to move forward in some type of forward progress. We could sit here and spin our wheels for the next 6 months, but that's not getting us any closer.
From what I understand, BSD is...
I was
Go ahead.
going next. Bennington, at our last board meeting, we voted to, I guess, leave the study committee. We want to go and look at pre-K through 12 on our own.
And I guess for me, the question is, if Bennington decides to go K through 12, would you consider absorbing Mount Anthony in the middle school as part of your district?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Is that legally possible? Because they're an
Well,
independent.
no, but it's something
No.
we can,
Bennington.
but it's something we
You
can.
can't have that discussion, well, I suppose you could have that discussion in this context.
So,
But you have to go through the motions to have it looked at. I mean, we don't know if it can happen, but maybe it can happen, and if it can, it wouldn't be much different than it was 45 years ago.
so is what you guys are proposing, Jackie, is like part of the BSD, is the BSD become the Bennington School District like it was 20, 30 years ago?
45.
45 when I was not even born yet. And you guys would run the K through 12, the elementary schools here, the middle school and the high school. So you'd have to break up those charters and the SVSU. It would allow Pownell to have their own district and join with another district that they felt they wanted to,
Yes.
and Woodford, North Bennington, Shasberry. That's a proposal from BSD.
And they could theoretically propose or ask to be a part of that broader BSD district.
Yeah.
If Pownell or Woodford wanted to do that. I think North Bennington and Shasberry both
I mean,
expressed at least an interest in looking elsewhere first.
Can I say something, Judge? You all then would have your own autonomy, so you would not lose your school boards.
We would lose our school boards because,
you'd
we would
have-
lose our school boards, but not to you. We would lose it to whatever group we joined.
Well, if you bought into BSD, superintendent
Oh.
service, if you bought into the service of BSD, you would keep your autonomy. The key here is all 5 districts want to keep and should keep their school boards. I believe that true, because that's what this whole Act 46 was designed to do, is to break up everybody and make them combine. And I believe the best thing you guys can do, all 5 districts, is look at what Bennington's proposal for K through 12, BSD. It gives everybody board what they want. It gives Pownell the right to keep their own busing. It gives Pownell the right to keep their own school board. It gives North Bennington the right to keep what they're doing. You're breaking up this conglomerate that we have done for 45 years that is not work. And you still could buy in the same services from Bennington if you chose to. You'd be a customer. You could get out when you wanted to. Right now, you have to have all 5 towns saying, yes, we want Bennington to.
Mike, it's my understanding that if you were to join this broader unified district, which would be what the K through 12 Bennington MAU combined would be, even if any of these other districts wanted to be a part of it, they would be forced to give up their local board.
No.
Otherwise, it doesn't meet the standard of,
No, I'm under Act 46, with my lawyer, no, you would not have to do that, because you would be keeping your own autonomy. You would be buying these services. That's what you all 5 need to start talking to whoever from the state. That's what you want to do.
plenty of
Then
conversations.
Pownell could go back to Graylock if they wanted to, like what they did years ago. Shasberry could go to Arlington. They would always have that option. North Bennington could be with part of Bennington or keep what you've got now. That, I think, is the goal. Tell me if I'm wrong, of all 5 boards. You want your autonomy.
And there is.
we would not be able to stay with you and keep our choice.
Well,
You would
that's
keep your school board
elementary.
and your autonomy. That's the thing. You wouldn't join. You wouldn't be sucked in by Bennington.
I mean, the option we don't talk about here is the side-by-side choice, which is basically each new district, side-by-side, is formed with a merger of at least 2 districts. One side operates K through 12, and one side tuitions in some or all grades, which K through 12 would be BSD. If Pownell wanted to join them, they could tuition in, they could run their own district, K through 6, and they could join in and tuition, they'd have tuition choice for middle and high school.
Yes. And
That's really the only way.
I keep forgetting to
this
say
could work.
that. We can
I
do
mean,
side-by-sides.
You can do
Sean
side by
Marie
side.
wanted-
But only if Shasberry and Pownell join together, or the point is, it doesn't help us.
I don't know, I mean, yeah, I don't know if the high school students go with that number? Because if the high school
Yes.
students go
It's
with
not a
that number?
it's the number of districts.
Yeah.
So there would only be one. If Pownell wanted
Well,
to say,
no,
look,
it says at least 2 districts. It doesn't say it can't be 6 districts.
no, I understand that.
So,
You have to throw in school choice.
Sean Marie?
Bennington is-
Mr. Bell come before?
No.
So, I'm Sean Marie Orr. I'm a Bennington resident. I want to say that whatever ends up at the state level, full disclosure, I'm on the State Board of Ed. I will not be on the State Board of Ed come next March. My 6 years will be done. So when your decision or your proposal gets up there, I will not be there to weigh in on it. But what I do want to say is that it saddens me to look at all the newspaper articles over the last few months and see all the fraction that is going on here. It is really, really disheartening. So as a state board member, the idea is for more opportunities, and what I see happening here is declining opportunities by these people going off this way and that way. And I think The phrase that comes to mind is an old phrase. It's a rising tide lifts all boats. And I just can't believe that these 5 communities that work together are having such a difficult time being able to make a choice or a decision for the 3,000 students that live in the SVSU district.
I don't know how-
Bennington pays, you know, a 70%, but that includes Mount Anthony. Of course, I say this all the time, Mount Anthony is not at the table. They have been operating as a board that doesn't look at the town, but the programs and the students for years, since whatever that was, 40-something years ago. There's no guarantee that the federal money that Woodford gets will continue to go to Woodford. There's, you know, it could end up going to the state ed fund. And then what? You know, I mean, you're an anomaly of one of the lowest cost per pupils. What the state is looking at is to see how much you know, each district spends per pupil and what happens in the ed fund. So I'm just a little saddened to see all the disagreement over every little piece of this action, and that people can't work together for the students of all 5 towns. It's,
Sean Marie, how many years have we been doing this?
well, we voted on it.
25 years we have been
So you know what, you
doing
could
study
let this,
committees.
so I think what's gonna happen, as I see it, is the state is gonna end up deciding where you're gonna go. So just a few little things. So, Mr. Bethel, if Pownell has their choice and they go to Mount Greylock, how is that gonna help the community in Bennington to have the money going down to Greylock? I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just saying that you have to think of the big picture. So you think North Bennington only has 100 and, let's say, 20 kids per grade, right? 7 through 12. That's 120 kids max. That's a lot of money to take out of the Mount Anthony system. And yes, granted, some of them will go there, but I mean, it's not, so you're fracturing it even beyond in that,
I would contend that 85% or more would continue to go to MAU.
well, but you know, there's no guarantees and there's
No,
no
that's the
control.
beauty of it, isn't it? That one can choose to go where they think's best place to go.
So, anyway.
Sean Marie, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In September, I watched a whole session of the state board, and the secretary was also there.
Can you speak up a little bit?
On Act 46, there was a state board meeting, I think September or August, somewhere in that time frame, and I was absolutely certain that the only Act 46 proposal that came out of any district that would be approved by the board and the secretary, I believe both you and the secretary, you personally, stated that option 3 was the only one that was measurable, and options, or goal 3 of Act 46 is to reduce headcount, okay, is a ratio of full-time equivalent employees to students. Now, my question is, and I've brought it up at every meeting of this board here, we need, whatever we do, has to reduce the head count of employees. You mentioned 3,000 students, we're down to 2,800. It's drifting down. So it's not, when you were more active here, it was 3,000, we're already down to 2,800. And I guarantee you that the number of teachers and employees, okay, hasn't gone down proportionally. So my question for you is, does it still stand, as you understand it, that the State Board of Education and the Secretary of Education, okay, will not accept any proposal that doesn't reduce headcount?
So I can't really answer that because I'm a sole person. But what I will say is there's other criteria that are going to be more and more obvious in place, which are the education quality standards and then the education quality reviews. So right now, there's only a few pilots. So you have to meet the criteria within those districts.
At that meeting, you and the secretary, as far as the quality of education, the Secretary of Education here in Bennington a few months ago had a proposal trying to define the quality. They don't know how to define the quality of education comparatively from school to school. So that goal, which is number 4 or 2 or something, is out because the state cannot measure the quality of education.
Well, actually,
it's a fluffy thing.
Okay, but the rubric is now in place for doing that. They're on-site, hands-on visits with material that backs it up.
Yeah, but it just started and it's not proven and
It'll be
But-
2 years.
And we haven't-
before Act
we
46,
can't even
after
get a
Act 46.
consultant.
Pardon?
We can't even get a consultant.
Yeah. So
Well, you know what? I said this the other day. If a consultant looked at the newspaper and said, oh, I really want to go down there, they all get along really well down there, let's go down there and work with those folks that get along so well down there.
I'd like to counter your comments about not getting along. I think
We've been very
actually,
civil.
I think we have learned a lot from each other in this process, and I think what we've learned is that we all would be happier in a different arrangement. We're not, there's been no sniping, there's been no.
No.
In fact, there's agreements among many of us that what I propose in the letter is a good idea. As I understand it, one board cannot leave. One district cannot leave. Well, we can leave by no longer participating, but we cannot become an official member of another
Unless we disband.
unless.
Yes. No, you're fine. Can you hear him?
The other thing that you all have to remember is, you do whatever you want to do, but there is also a bond that all 5 districts commit to. So if you want to break up and do your own thing and keep your autonomy, we all better get agreeable, because that bond may hold us all to something we don't want.
There's no way that any district could consider any other option except to hold on to their responsibility to that bond.
Right, but you can vote to get out of it. If BSD takes it over, they would have to vote and get an approval and get the bond company to say BSD will take over the bond.
We could just continue to contribute to that bond.
No, you probably couldn't. Financially, you couldn't afford to do it. Because you'd be sending your kids someplace else, and you'd be paying the bond too. You wouldn't need to. BSD would be able to take over the bond. If all 5 towns agree to it, you'd be out of that commitment, which
Well,
would be another.
We don't want out of that commitment at all. We're already looking at that as an assumption that we would be paying all the remainder of the bond to Mount Anthony.
It wouldn't be Mount Anthony, it would be BSD. If you want, hear me out, just hear me out. If you want your independence, Mount Anthony has to go away. BSD has to become a K through 12. Do we all agree to that? Do you all want your independence?
I don't know how you would develop your own structure, but obviously the idea would be to get rid of one of the layers of.
You don't understand that BSD has to become a K through 12 for you to get out of this commitment of Mount Anthony and the bond. Do you agree to that or not? If you don't understand that, we're going nowhere.
We don't want out of the commitment necessarily of the bond. We're happy to pay the bond.
I'm not saying you're cheating anybody.
Yeah.
You would, if you bought into services through BSD's new K through 12, that would be helping pay the bond by child per pupil. But you and Shasbury and Powell, if you don't at least agree that the bond would go away and benefit you, Bennington would have to take it over. They'd have to get a vote of their people to assume the responsibility of the remainder of the bond.
I'm not.
You're not getting
away.
it.
No, I'm not.
But I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves on that anyways. I really think that we have to just, discuss about how we feel about our announcements, the rest of the board. And as far as the bond goes, that would all have to be vetted by a lawyer. We'd have to find out how, we don't know if we can become pre-K through 12, but we want to investigate it.
You know, I mean, I can speak as the only person on this committee who actually went through the school system in the last 40 years. I mean, there will, I hate to say it, it offers great opportunity, the system we have now. I mean, there's choices here in the school district that I feel could be lost eventually. In some cases, it opens other doors, because if you have that option tuition in, you really have your choice. Because some people are held back from pursuing other school opportunities because they're in the district. And if you can't do it financially, if you're an incredible skier and want to go to Stratton Mountain School, you have to pay out of pocket for that now. Area where you could tuition in, that could benefit that one child. So there are lost opportunities, which may happen. There should be some new ones that are gained. I think that's something we all have to look at closely. Do I think school A, B, and C up north are better than Mount Anthony? In one or two cases, yes. I think Mount Anthony has great programs that we have to look at that could be lost. That's something we have to consider, is if we break this up, there may be things that are lost. There may be things that are gained by going to another school. But, without looking at what's available, can Palmer tuition into Mount Greylock? They can't tuition Mount Greylock, their hands kind of tied.
They would tuition into BSD.
Yeah, and if that kid wants to go to Manchester, they're looking at an hour drive, 45-minute drive.
So not too many people would do that.
Not too many, but some may. And I think, that's something we have to consider is what could be lost from splitting this apart as it is, because there will be programs lost at MAU. Because
Can I
when
say one
you,
more thing to what you're
one second,
saying?
30 seconds. Because when you lose 100 kids, that's a whole lot of dollars. That tuition money, $120,000, $150,000 out of here, you're losing a program at Mount Anthony. It will get lost, which is something that you have to consider. So,
But this other, if we stay where we are now, we're stuck with what we've got forever. And you have no options, you have no school choice, you have no property values going up because of school choice, you have nothing of what you just said. And to me, I don't think you can lose anything, because BSD it will be amongst them to have to make a better product that you all are going to want to stay. But right now, we just don't have have that in the system. And Sean Marie, of all people, should understand it's because of the 6th grade issue that everybody is still educated.
All right, Mike.
Well, wait a minute.
No, we don't need to go there. We don't need to go there.
But that's why, some of the things are not the way we want them to be. So,
Woodford?
Woodford's in a kind of we have maybe the most to lose here, so I think where we sit is we think we're going to lose state funding in a lot of categories. That will make it difficult to operate. The state could make new life safety rules that say wooden structures are no longer reasonable public spaces. Happened in New York, could happen here. And so we're kind of sitting on the edge, waiting to hear what is being developed. We don't have the ability to absorb a bond but it looks like we're going to have to buy into some situation, someplace. We necessarily think we will lose our professional staff. We think the school, which is the center of our town business, will no longer be that. So we're kind of, I guess a lot of this conversation is premature for us because we're waiting to see what develops without the ability to start it ourselves.
Sir?
There's one thing that I'd like to give you a different interpretation of, I think, than Ms. Aller did. She describes this as a fracturing of the SU. In fact, I see it rather the opposite. Act 46 calls upon districts to join with similar districts. If you're joined with districts that are not similar right now, that means you're going to have to change. Also, in terms of fracturing, I'd think of it more as a realignment, because what we're doing here is trying to, we aren't going to create any new districts in this. In fact, if we were successful in merging with other districts in our area that we feel have similar goals to us, there'd be 4 districts combined into one with a single board. And I don't know if other groups would find similar arrangements, but under Act 46, it seems to me highly likely that the various districts are going to end up merging with somebody. The question is, are we going to merge with somebody that's similar to us in size and goals, or are we going to stay confined in a district or a supervisory union that doesn't share our goals? That's really the question.
Jackie?
Yes.
Matt, going back to the letter that you sent to the members of the committee, What would happen, in your opinion, if at the end of the study, the recommendation from this board were to basically remain as it is? What does it do to your district?
It destroys our option of choice. We won't allow that to happen, so something else will happen before that. That's what,
So in other words,
and I can pretty much guarantee you the state isn't going to agree that I mean, this is my contention, that we're all sitting around going, we've done all the consolidating we can, let's keep it just like it is. It doesn't meet the state's letter of Act 46. And so that goes back to our feeling. We need to forge our own destiny, as I think everybody else does, and find, I think what Bruce is relating to, find like-minded people and community to come together. By folding MAU into BSD, it's a perfect example of trying to do what the law asks you to do. You know, you turn two boards into one. You have full control as a board over your destiny in that case. You don't have to worry about outlying representative districts.
so the umbrella as it is does not help you at all?
No.
Jeannie?
This is the first consolidation meeting I've come to, so I'm just trying to understand everybody's position. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what like-minded means.
Well, this thing came out of the BSD's discussion they had early in the month, where they seemed to want fuller representation of their community. And I guess you could ask them that, but my concern is, like-minded is, we are a pre-K through 6 choice district. There is no other district like that. We cannot stay with you like that. So we're not like you. We're not like any of these other districts in that respect. And our community has demonstrated its desire to maintain choice, and in fact, to expand it. And so that's our motivation. And Act 46 speaks directly to a district's ability to seek its destiny, its own destiny, and what best works for their kids. I would welcome, in a heartbeat, any of you guys to consider choice, pre-K through 6 or K through 12 choice. That's not likely to happen. And so we can't sit around hoping that's going to happen. We have to go somewhere where that already has happened.
And just to follow up on that, I mean, we aren't like districts. We're a K through 6 operating system. Under this law, you'd have to be a pre-K through 12 with our grades. It'd be equal schooling, so the Shasberry 6th graders would have to go to Mount Anthony. Because all the schools in the district are going to have the same kids in the same grade. We can't run a 6th grade independent in Shasberry. It'd have to go to Mount Anthony. Pound would have the same issue, and I think Woodford, has the same issue. So I mean, our Shasberry school would have to change. There is no like between BSD and.
I'm just trying to understand what like-minded meant. And you're saying for you, like-minded means
like
having a 6th grade, and for you, finding a like-minded group would be finding someone else who has school choice, or is that?
Yeah. The only way we can meet the letter of the law is to find another district that has either pre-K through 6 choice, which would maintain what we have. There are none of those. There's 4 of them in the entire state, and they're not within 150 miles. And so we are seeking full choice expansion. And again, we're dreaming about what we want for our community. There are like districts with pre-K through 12 choice within 30 miles. And that would be one of the options that we would explore.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Jackie?
Yes, Jim?
Okay. Section 2 goals. The first goal of Act 46 is to provide, one, provide substantial equity in the quality and variety of educational opportunities statewide. This says to me, one shoe fits all. And this utopian goal, since that lawsuit 15 years ago, was to have every kid in Vermont have the exact same education. So if we're all trying to be unique and serve our own purpose, I think that speaks. I don't agree with every school district. I agree with North Bending is trying to do is every district has its own personality and wants it. But Act 46 is further trying to force everybody into the same size shoe. As Goal 1 says, provide substantial equity, that's equality, and equality. So the same quality at Pownell and North Bennington and variety. So the same subjects, the same courses, the same everything.
Equal and equity are not the same.
Pardon?
Equal and equity are not the same word. Equity doesn't equal the same. It says substantial equity. It doesn't say substantially equal.
Well, what does equity mean?
Equity means that the opportunities for students are provided in all the school districts.
No. That's after that. Substantial equity and equality and variety of educational opportunities. So the opportunities have the same variety. If we have art, you have art. If we have gym, you have gym. If you have yoga, we have yoga. That's how I read it, and that's how the state is trying to force this. You don't think equity means equal?
No, we struggled, no. Equity doesn't mean,
And the Secretary of Education, her new vast program of going to the schools is making sure everything is equal?
no. It means,
Act 46 doesn't try to make everything equal?
it means that if, you know.
Is there an English teacher here, George? What is equity? Somebody Google equity for me.
Could you let her finish?
Go
It
ahead.
means that if there are opportunities.
She's interrupting me, by the way. Go on.
That's true, I am.
Thank you.
I am interrupting.
So Sean Marie, you may proceed.
It means that if a school if there's a school that has no opportunities for work experience or internships, that is not equity. The experiences of work experience.
And Goal 1 separates them.
They can be different,
That's-
as long as there's opportunities to do things.
No.
other than- There's a high school in the state with 52 kids. Do you think they're getting the same education as another school?
Absolutely not. But I'm just saying, look at this again, the equity, you're using the opportunity portion of this goal to define the equity, and they're separate in here. Thanks,
I'm the
Jackie.
chair anyways. But on the same thing as equity, the Bennington taxpayers, other than Woodford, pay we have the lowest student ratio, cost per student ratio. That's because Shasberry decides to spend more and have different programs that we can't afford. North Bennington has programs that we can't afford. Pownell has some programs that we're not going to afford. So how's it going to be equitable? Where are we going to raise the taxes in Bennington so that we can be equitable to these three districts?
No, but if you all work together, you might have an equitable tax rate, and you might be able to offer those things, as I said, a rising tide lifts all boats. So where are the poor kids going to go? Where are the special ed kids going to go?
Some places they don't know.
They're going to drive in the choice to, different towns?
That's what towns will have to look at.
I'll start reading here before you know it.
Special ed kids from where? Poor kids from where?
Not all independent schools take special ed.
Yeah.
I mean, the district of residence is responsible for them, but it doesn't mean that every independent school takes a special ed identified kid.
I'm trying to understand that, how that's germane to this. So kids in BSD, which become the larger BSD, would still,
Talking about SVSU, I'm not talking about.
Shasberry's kids, they're already educated in their special ed, and they're poor kids.
I'm talking about if you had choice to go to wherever you wanted to go.
If they had choice,
I think we're the only one asking for choice, right?
Yeah.
Is it? The newly formed BSD wouldn't be a choice district, right?
Well, actually, why would they?
Why would we be?
Why wouldn't they be?
We wouldn't be.
If a parent wanted to be, I think they could be. I think all districts
You're muddying the waters.
Well, I think it's a legitimate question.
which helps us get what we want.
If we become, it can be looked at, Mike. You got anything to say, Ken?
No, I was just, the way I was looking at it, as we had discussed before, is that we could, release North Bennington to be whatever they want it to be. If they want it to be a K-12 choice or pre-K-12 choice, that would be their, I don't see, begrudge them at all. That's what they want, that's what they should have. And if BSD took over pre-K through 12 with our 3 schools, middle school and high school, then the other districts, Shaftesbury, Woodford, and Pownell could join together. They'd have their 900 number. They could be their own schools, K through 6, and then have the choice for the 7 through 12 youngsters. I mean, I would say 95% would go to Mount Anthony anyways, but I mean, that would give them the flexibility. You mentioned about a youngster that wants to ski, who parents couldn't afford.
Stratton Mountain, it gives them the choice.
Or whatever, that would, and Jean-Marie, you're up in Montpelier a lot. I follow along on Vermont Digger, which is an independent site. And they were talking the last couple of weeks about property values in all the choice towns. Their property values are like 25, 35% more than if they didn't have choice. Because people go in, like I know a person over there in Dover and so forth, where they have choices. People buy homes in those communities just to be able to send their kids wherever they want. And that's a big a push. And don't fool yourself, Burton would, for 40 kids in a bus, they'd send down a bus here to take whoever wants to go up there. I'm sure Greylock could do the same thing. Powell would send a bus up and bring up and take the youngsters there. So your property values in those communities would probably go up because, people want those opportunities. The state seems to stand in the way of choice. In Massachusetts, where I was working, every single district is a choice district. If you live in Williamstown and you want your kid to go to Boston Latin, your kid can go to Boston Latin. I mean, you gotta get them there, you gotta get a place to stay, but, that's just the way it is. For some reason, Vermont poo-poos it. I bring it up at the VSBA all the time when they talk about issues. I say, we should make Vermont a choice district. And the one thing they always mention is transportation. I mean, you're gonna worry about a kid's education and you stop them for choice because of that. I know Reedsboro and Stanford, right over here, their choice high school, 9 through 12. And their parents take a van, one each day, 5 different parents, and they bring the kid to the border through North Adams or Williamstown, and they drop them off. They're flexible. They get the kids there if they want them. If they want something that bad, you get them there. I mean, that's just the way life is. We can keep saying, oh, it's so hard for kids to get there. It's not. If you want to get something for your youngster, you work hard. If you think it's a better, there's nothing wrong with, Mount Anthony. It really isn't. My daughter went there. It's a great education, and she went to college and has a great job now. And I know Jean-Marie's youngster and Jeff over there, Mike, his brother, Jill, everybody. I mean, they get knocks and, people stereotype things, but, you get what you put into it. And if you go to that school, my daughter had a great English teacher over there, things they carried, and, it's, I think we get a bad rap for a lot of our schools and our school systems here in Bennington. It's just too bad, because I think there's a lot, but, those who don't think it's a good job, I don't know why. But, I'd be willing to work with something like that, give you guys, what was this place that's 30 miles or 40 miles you said was a K-12?
There are a number of districts up in Winhall, Stratton, there's Sandgate.
Are they part of a district now, though?
They're going to form a new one. They're already way. This is the other thing. When we see these successful districts getting beyond this and moving forward, it's encouraging to see them doing it, and we don't want to miss that boat.
don't blame you.
And just to follow up with Mike here, I mean, if you look at the structures, I mean, BSD is going, and I mean, this is Bennington's, you know, it's not North Bennington, Shasbury. I mean, as far as Bennington running the K through 12, I mean, there's only 4 options for you, you know, according to the state level, which is you run a straight K through 12. If you run a K through 12, you can't tuition in. You can't have choice. You can't tuition out. The other options, you operate a pre-K through 8 and you tuition 9 through 12, which is effectively you'd have an independent high school. Mount Anthony wouldn't be there. It would be run as independent high school. If I'm reading this right, somebody correct me wrong. The third option is you operate as a pre-K through 6 and you tuition 7 through 12. The fourth option is just pay tuition for all students K through 12. So the only reason you have a way out to get, like if Shasbury did this, we could tuition in with the side-by-side because it's one of the options. Mount Anthony and Bennington kids wouldn't have the opportunity, which, is that fair for the kids in Bennington? You know, if you have to run a K through 12, they want to send that kid to Stratton Mountain School to go skiing because it's a great skier, that kid's paying $18,000 a year to go there.
Yeah,
So-
just to clarify that for a minute.
Yeah, like I said.
I worked at Stratton Mountain
Yeah.
School this winter, and yeah, the number of kids that live in Win Hall and Stratton do attend
Yeah.
that school.
I mean, I picked it
They
'cause
have to
it's-
pay
Yes,
a lot on top of that.
yes, on
to
top
go
of
there.
that, yes.
But it helps some of these
Yeah,
families.
and I mean, that's why I used it, because it's a very specific programs for specific individuals. So I'm using it as a point. But, you know, there's only 4 options Bennington could do as a single K to 12 district. You know, the side-by-side offers different things. You have the alternative setup, which you could do what you want, but, I mean, this is Bennington. You know, this is what Shasbury decides to do, or North Bennington, or Woodford, or Pownell. You know, we have to answer to our people in our community. If Shasbury people want to stay part of here, they'll let us know when they vote. So, I mean, this is really Bennington's forum. This is, that the Bennington people know what's going on.
We wanna, I mean, as a board, we would like to, you know, look at other options, that's all. We don't know if we're gonna find anything.
Yeah.
We may all be back.
So does it mean, and I don't know the rules about this, perhaps Sean Marie could enlighten us on that, but when you
Make a motion.
dismantle, you make a motion, it's just a majority vote?
Yes.
Well, just before we do that, I mean, I'd like to go back to my board. I have 4 people I got to answer to. I mean, granted, 2 of them are here, but I still have 2 more I got to get input from. So, I mean,
Well, we could still have a vote contingent on,
This board is formed by the SU, so I believe they might have to vote to dismantle the board.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think
So I
that's
mean,
where the, that's where the vote was to form the board, so probably that's where it would have to be to vote to
committee,
dismantle
right.
it.
so I mean,
The committee, thank you.
within 30 days, I think we could all have an answer, which I don't know if that's quick enough for North Bennington.
yeah, we could have an advisory vote that expresses everybody's interest, just so that they can bring that back to their boards and to the SU.
Matt, we just, as a board, we just couldn't release you and let you go and find another partner.
I wish that were the case. Apparently, it's not.
Is it,
If anybody can speak to that,
If this is a committee, never mind.
My understanding, you can be part of one study committee at a time.
Yeah, but if we release him, then he's not a member of this committee anymore, then he can find another committee to work with. That's his intent.
Again, I would say the SU would have to, they would have to reformulate this committee how they formed it.
well, that might be an option too, right? When is the next SU meeting?
Be the 4th Wednesday of April.
So if we disband this committee, then we left ourselves open to the state on high coming in here and telling us what to do.
No
You
more
are
than, no more
anyways.
than you are now by not
It allows,
exploring options that satisfy the Act 46 legislation.
Well, we never talk about, okay, everything that Bennington wants to do, you're gonna cut employees. You're gonna end up with less employees. That's, I'm telling you, that's number 3 of the goals, and it's one that the state board and the secretary said was the only one that was meaningful. The rest are all mushy. If we go to the state, if the Southern Vermont Supervisors Union goes to the state and says, our proposal, what we're going to do is going to cut our ratio, is it up or down we want? We want we want it up. We're going to have 6 students per full-time equipment, then the state has to say yes by their own guidelines. But anything that goes the other direction, which is less students and more employees, it gets shot down by the state. That is the objective for Act 46, is whether you, they're afraid to tell the teachers unions we got to cut teachers, so it's up to us to do something else.
Explore independence, and then you don't have any
Before you
employees.
make a motion, I ask a question to the gentleman. I ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
Is the goal of every school district want to keep their autonomy? Does your boards want you to fold up and become something else and lose your Woodford, Shasbury, North Bennington?
I think you're asking 2 questions. I mean,
I am asking.
I can answer that as an individual of the Bennington community, and I could probably answer as a board member. There's 2 answers here. As an individual, I think I could probably run, if this was a whole Bennington, Shasbury, Pownell, North Bennington, Woodford, I'd feel strong enough that if we made one board with 7 positions and everybody in the Southern Vermont region ran, I'd feel kind of confident as running as an individual and being elected within most districts.
No, I'm not asking that.
Well, I'm just, that's that one. So if there's one board that represented everybody and all the children in this area, I think I'd feel strong enough to run for that board and do well enough.
But aren't you elected to represent?
And now here's my Shasbury.
Okay, that's what I want.
As my Shasbury, I think Shasbury likes the board, we like what we do in our community. And so as a resident of Shasbury, we like our board. I like serving the kids of Shasbury. I mean, it's nothing about Bennington, that's where my kid goes to school.
But my second question is, if you don't do anything, and you let Act 46 just come in and dictate, with nobody making a decision, I wouldn't break up this panel right away, I think you're premature to do that. But do you not lose your autonomy? Do you not lose the opportunity to keep your Shasbury school board?
That's a given already.
That's right, so that's what I think you guys are all here, number one, for. And you have to keep that in your head. I don't think each town wants to lose their school board. So I think that should be right on the top every time you ask a question. And if BSD can go on their own and keep that for you people, I should think that would be right
As
there.
long as this committee's in place, we cannot ask for any help from the state financially to study anything else.
To look at any of these other
To
options.
look at anything else. So this committee has to disband for us to go our own ways.
Okay. I agree with that. I didn't know that part of it. I didn't know.
I would like to make a motion to advise the SU, should that be necessary, to allow us to dissolve this committee and have the chair write a final report to the Secretary of Ed, explaining our situations and our desires to take some alternate looks at different models which are not allowed currently under the formation of this committee.
Do I hear a second?
Why can't we do that? Isn't that our charge here, is to look at all the alternate and come up with something that's different, or keep what it is?
Yes.
Should BSD say that they want to take a look at something, it by default is looking at something separate from the rest of us.
But like I just said, it may be attractive, where
It may be, and that's my point, but you can't do that. You can't say, hey, you know what, let's go take a look. You and I see about.
And as long as there's money on the table, I mean, we have that, whatever the grants are proposed, I mean, BSD could do it with their own money, but as long as that money's on the table, that is from the state, BSD can't access it unless it's part of this committee. So if BSD wants to fund their own investigation or programs, they can do it with their own funds, they just have to approve it within their board. I mean, I can speak to Shasbury. We sat down with another district and, we had a meeting, talked to them, asked questions. I thought it was a good discussion. They have moved on.
You can have informal meetings with other districts. You know.
Yeah, informal
And
meetings.
I think this committee should still move forward and have the last public forum in North Bennington. And
Then decide after.
schedule it sooner rather than later, so that you can keep moving along. But that's the one community you haven't had a public forum in yet, so have that hear from their audience members. Then follow the process that you meet and get all your recommendations when you want to go back to everybody. But nothing prevents you from informally, just as Shaftesbury did with Arlington, nothing to have informal talks or discussions as you already have been doing, right?
I have a motion on the.
And, but just- there's a
wait
question
minute,
that-
I have a motion. I have a motion on the
Who
floor.
seconded it?
Do I have a second?
No, I think we should wait.
I'm seconding it.
Discussion?
Discussion, Frank?
Hi, I'm Frank Barnes. I'm a resident of Bennington. Full disclosure, I'm also former English teacher at the high school and currently the director of educational technology. And I just want to, I'd feel remiss in my obligation to the kids of this town if I don't at least just express what I'm observing here. Couple of things that come to mind. I hear words like control, autonomy. I don't hear a lot of, what's best for our kids. I don't hear a lot of, support, those kinds of words. It's more about, seems like it's more about what the adults think is the best thing for, for their town with their town's individual desires. And that's understandable, but it concerns me. And maybe it's coming from, and this is why I mentioned I was a teacher at the high school. Maybe it's because of my experience being at Mount Anthony, where all of your kids show up at my door. And where I see them go off to, be excellent mechanics maybe, or go to Harvard, or one of my former students is now my physician. One of my former students is truly a rocket scientist, those kinds of things, but we care about them all. And it's very disturbing that you guys, it seems, there's always this disconnect. It's like my kids here and my kids there because we want to keep the tax rates down, because we want to, we want to control, we want autonomy. I want what's best for the kids in this town or in this region, and we all should. And it seems like you guys, the boards, can't get your act together to get along and come to some sort of an agreement that would work best for everybody. And if you had a unified district, you have certain control over how that's going to look, how many people are going to vote for what, and how you're going to set it up. As far as school choice goes, there's a lot of kids that probably love to go to, South Burlington because they can do something up there, but who's going to do a 2.5-hour bus drive? We provide awesome education here. We don't believe it necessarily. And certain things like the bus in Pownell, Jim, I understand. I was, more full disclosure, I was a bus driver for a number of years. I drove in Fairfield, Vermont, and I drove in Manchester, New Hampshire. And honestly, you know what? It didn't matter if I brought the kids to school or if somebody else brought the kids to school. Kids were getting a good education when they got there. So to have that kind of a thing get in the way of anything, to me, is ludicrous. It's just ridiculous. So I just, these are just my thoughts. I think you should certainly go through I agree with what Mr. Culkeen said, have the last meeting. If you want to have your, bring it to the SVSU and disband this, I understand that. But I just, I want you to hear what I had to say before then. And I also have to, just one last thing is, if there was a unified district here, oh no, there's two last things. But the first one, if this was a unified district with the people who are currently involved with the SVSU, things would be done a lot faster. This committee started when? September, October? It's almost April. We're still talking about whatever. And that's one of the problems that you probably have had over the last 45 years. And this is my last point. When everybody else in the world is thinking about moving, ahead in the future and trying to do the best thing we can to prepare our kids for the future that we don't even know exists. We don't even know what they're going to be dealing with. Think about how much technology has changed in the last 45 years. Did you guys have microwave ovens then? You was right on the edge, maybe. And now it's true. And we don't know the kids that start school tomorrow, when they graduate, what they're going to be facing. And we've got to provide them with every opportunity we can, and bickering and just jockeying for position because you think you can do a better job in your one little, microcosm than everybody together. One thing I learned a long time ago is that everybody together is smarter than any one individual. Well, it goes the same as far as I'm concerned for, little groups like this that can create something wonderful, but instead choose to have this division. And that's all I have to say, unless anybody wants to ask me a
Right,
question.
we
Yes.
started out that way. We listed all the benefits of what it would be to come together, but for some reason, we can't all agree that they're all our students. Because I have said what Sean Marie has said since the day I've met her, that all the students are all our students. It doesn't matter what school they go to. And the problem it comes down to is the law itself. The law will break up the school boards, and it will give Bennington the most votes anyways. If we become one, because it has to be done per population, per pupils into the districts. So we can stay in this, but if, we've had Shasberry hint a couple times. We know what North Bennington feels. They want out.
Well, I mean,
Well, you don't definitely want out, but you have said
yes.
that
We had
maybe we
Arlington
should.
who doesn't meet the 900. Arlington is a district who doesn't have enough students, and they need more students to meet this proposal. If they don't get more students, the states, they tell them what to do. And they might tell them, we're going to stick you and Shasbury together. Arlington came to us and wanted to talk to us about joining their district because they don't have enough students.
Then are you joining their district because they don't
No,
have enough
they
students,
came
or
in-
because it's best for your students? Because that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and I have a kid in the
That's
school.
all I'm doing.
I mean, I have a child in the school, and do I want what's best for my kid and every other kid in my kid's class? Oh, yeah. And that's why I'm on this board, is I want the kids there. And did Mount Anthony have some incredible programs? Yeah, and you can put them side by side with every school. And I think every high school in the Southern Vermont region or the state has pros and cons. I mean,
I take offense to suggesting that we're not interested in our kids. In fact, from North Bennington's perspective, I think the best thing that you can do ever for a kid is to give individual parents an idea of what they should do with their kids. And that's what choice is about. And everybody wants to dance around that and poo-poo it and call us names and do all that. That's fine. We fought for that. We're dedicated to it. We'd like to fight for further of it. And again, it's not about this school. It's not about MAU. My daughter went through MAU, had a fantastic experience, nearly top of the class. I have another daughter there now. There are just some families whose parents and kids feel that they need to do something else. That's all I'm fighting for.
Matt, I apologize if I said something that you take offense at. That wasn't my intention. But one of the things that happens with Act 77, which is another act that I'm sure you're all familiar with, is that it offers flexible pathways for graduation, and it changes the landscape and the dynamic and the paradigm of what education is. But beyond that, it also brings parents into the conversation. It forces parents into the conversation. And I think parents should definitely have a big say in what their kids are doing. But, there is no but. I basically agree with what you said. And I'm sorry. Yes,
I
Ken.
I hated to see you leave the classroom, because I know I went to your classroom, I visited. My daughter had, you're a very good English teacher.
Thank you.
And I hated to see you leave it, because again, the kids are losing, may be losing a good quality education because you're not there. And those are things we don't have control over. But we're all here because of Act 46. If there was no Act 46, we wouldn't even be here. We'd all be home this evening reading a paper or doing something else. But as Jim over there mentioned, the state's main goal is to pinch pennies, and that's the whole thing. And they want us to do as much consolidation or bring it together. Like you said, if it's 4 to 7 or whatever, and they want it up to 5 or 6 ratio, that's what they're looking for. And, we don't like to see it. I'd love to see the status quo stay just like it is and work with what we have, but people keep saying that the state won't approve it.
Yeah, I understand that, excuse me, saving money is often on the state's minds and local citizens' minds and everybody else. And that is certainly part of what's going on here, but the part that I sort of latch onto is the efficiency part too. We don't want to, I personally don't ignore the fact that it would be a more efficient system, and if it's a more efficient system, it would serve our kids better as well. So it's not just the money to me, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but George had brought a study that was done in Ohio about consolidations. It falls flat on its face. It doesn't save any money. Today I was looking online. They did a study in West Virginia. They closed all the little small rural schools throughout West Virginia, and it falls on its face. The kids aren't getting a good education. They're on the buses for long, long periods of time. There's no money saved. It's just a loss all the way around. So, the state up there, in their wisdom, thinks consolidation is going to be the key to saving money. I never hear them saying how kids are going to all get better educations and stuff like that.
This isn't about, it's not about money. That's an easy way to sell it, but it's not about money.
But Arlington is a very
I have a
small
comment.
school district. They got a very small school district, but they offer AP up there galore. But they only have 3 or 4 kids in a class, but they offer them up there.
Jackie? About the motion?
As a parent who's,
The rest of the motion.
for a choice. I have 2 children. One of them serves well right now in middle school, his brother. I have another daughter who has special considerations and cannot go to middle school. Not one size fits all. That's why I'm such a supporter of choice. Families are different, children are different. Now Anthony would probably serve most of the children if choice was allowed in North Bennington district. But there needs to be an option for parents to have that choice, to get the best education that meets the needs of their particular children. And so I greatly appreciate as a parent, this committee seriously considering letting each community do what it needs to do. Thank you.
I'm calling the question.
Jackie, no,
Huh?
I never got my point in the discussion on the motion. I would like to hold the vote. I would like to request that you hold the vote in abeyance till next meeting, because I cannot vote without input from Pownell on this issue. So if you can not vote, and we'll put it on the agenda for next.
Motion to table.
Pardon?
Just say a motion to table.
You want to make a motion to table the motion?
Hold it in abeyance. Same. Yeah,
Well, that's not
it's
the
like equity and
proper
equal.
verbiage.
I would be happy with that. I think-
Motion is still there, we're just not going to vote. I'd like,
Motion's been made and seconded to table. Who seconded it?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
tabling.
Tabled it.
Future meeting.
Seeing no, is there any more discussion? Anybody want to? Okay, seeing no more discussion,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can we set a date?
Yes.
yes.
North Bennington, yeah.
Yeah. Like, tomorrow?
No 11.
So we've been traditionally doing Mondays. See the SVSU policy meeting on the 4th, that's at 4:30. I don't know how many are in both. And
Anybody on the policy committee?
Yeah, but we've made it before.
Do it 4-4.
4-4?
At
Where?
6 o'clock.
Can we meet at 6:30?
You want 6:30?
6:30 would give the policy committee more time, I guess.
That would be fine.
Where?
And can you check on the availability of the school, or?
I'll have to check. I think it's good.
All right, if you could get back to me.
I'll verify it with you by tomorrow.
Okay. The 4th?
April 4th.
Monday, April 4th, 6:30 at
It's a week from
North
today, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Grade, North Grade, what is it called? Grade Study.
Was a motion to adjourn made?
Yes.
Seconded?
Yes. I adjourn this
Okay.
meeting.